going on, guys? It's Cynical and welcome back to another Kingdom Hearts 3 video. Today for you guys, I wanted to sit down and talk about the secret ending for Kingdom Hearts 3, as it is extremely intriguing. Now, I've been watching this over quite a few times and coming up with a few sort of ideas and theories in my head, and Nomura is definitely playing the cat's fiddle with this one. I mean, this secret ending, you know, it's like the others. They don't really give us too much context in terms of what's going on. Essentially, these are used to kind of allude to what is next in the Kingdom Hearts series, but doing so, it doesn't really give us too much context or really hints as to what exactly the falupa is going on. So the secret ending quite obviously shows us Sora waking up on the streets of what appears to be Tokyo, Japan. We can also see scenes of Riku walking around in what also looks to be Tokyo, Japan as well. Now, Sora is quite clearly in the Shibuya district, as we do actually see him at the Scramble Crossing, and Riku seems to be more closer to the business district, as of course we see him very close to the Metropolitan Government building. So without a doubt, Sora and Riku are in some kind of version of Tokyo, Japan. Now, it's made pretty obvious what world Riku is in. Clearly we do see a scene of Riku on the ground, and then it zooms up to the top of the Metropolitan building and we see Yozora sitting on top of it. Now, within the Kingdom Hearts 3 Ultimania, Tetsuya Nomura was obviously interviewed, and one of the questions that was asked was, the scenery of the world Riku is in is also very exciting. It feels like it's trying to summon past memories. The man looking down from the roof of the building looks a lot like Yozora from Verum Rex, the game that was popular in the Toy Box world. Nomura says, yes, that is Yozora. The following question says, so that means that's the world of Verum Rex. Nomura replies, yes, that's right. I know the visuals have some people thinking it's the same as a title I had been working on in the past, obviously referring to that of Final Fantasy Versus 13, but he says here it isn't. There are parts of the unreleased projects that have been cooking along inside of me, so there's a chance that I may have some overlap of ideas, but Verum Rex is a completely different thing. Nobody knows what was in the projects that wasn't released, and Verum Rex doesn't even exist yet, so perhaps it's difficult to understand right now, but I will just say that they are different things and leave it at that. So that is raw confirmation from the big dog himself that yes, Riku is currently wandering around the world of Verum Rex, and obviously keeping in mind, Sora actually did visit this world during the Toy Box world in Kingdom Hearts 3. Young Master Xehanort obviously chucked him into the video game known as Verum Rex, and for a brief while there, we had a small little scenario where we had to take down a bunch of Gigases. Now, specifically when looking towards Verum Rex, it's very interesting because obviously there has been a lot of talk behind the fact that, well, this is quite clearly some Final Fantasy Versus 13 influence coming into specifically Verum Rex extremely strong. The way that Nomura describes Verum Rex right here is very interesting. It almost sounds as if Verum Rex could quite possibly become its very own game at some point, but we'll just have to wait and see if anything along the lines of that actually ends up happening. For now though, we can clearly see that Verum Rex has a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy Versus 13, as Nomura was once the director of that project that then went on to become Final Fantasy 15. Yozora is just simply another version of Noctis. I mean, it's goddamn obvious. And also with chucking the Metropolitan building into the mix as well, the same building that is actually featured in the universe of Versus 13 and 15, you can definitely see that, just like Nomura said, there are definitely some overlapping ideas going on. Anyway, getting back to the secret movie in itself, from that information we do of course know that Riku is wandering around the world of Verum Rex. If we take a look at the Verum Rex video game ad that plays as you make your way into the Toy Box world in Kingdom Hearts 3, we can clearly see that yes, the world of Verum Rex is also based on that of Tokyo, Japan, as we actually do see a sign that says Shibuya in the very first few seconds of the ad itself. So we're seeing a sign saying Shibuya, as well as the world also having the Metropolitan Government building. We know that this world is based off of Tokyo, Japan. The real question though, I think, that everyone is asking is, whereabouts is Sora? Now, from the information that we got from Tetsuya Nomura mentioning that yes, Riku is in the world of Verum Rex, a lot of us are saying, well, okay, Sora must also be in this world as well. He's quite clearly in Tokyo, Japan too, as of course we do see him in Shibuya Shibuya at the Scramble Crossing. However, what if this version of Tokyo that Sora is in isn't actually Verum Rex's version of Tokyo, but is rather actually the World Ends With You's version of Tokyo? Now, there is actually something interesting that Tetsuya Nomura does bring up in the Ultimania. He was actually asked the question of, is Sora in the world of The World Ends With You? Nomura does say it does look like it, but there's more meaning in the fact that it is not Shibuya, but Shibuya. Also, Sora promised Neku and the others in Dream Drop Distance that he would meet them in Shibuya, but that doesn't mean it's directly connected to this movie. So essentially what he's saying right here is Sora is in a Shibuya, but it's not exactly the World Ends With You Shibuya. The way that he's worded this entire response though to the question of this, being, is this the world ends with you? It's very strange. I don't want to take this as a straight confirmation that, okay, this is definitely not Twelly, but more so this could be some kind of alternate version of the World Ends With You's Shibuya, but not necessarily the one that is displayed in the actual canon game of The World Ends With You. And I mean, I think that is fairly obvious because there are scenes where Sora's looking around and he can see neon lit sort of billboards with very interesting language inscriptions and writing all over them, which is actually the same kind of language found on the posters within Twilight Town, which I think at this point is sort of Tetsuya Nomura's own spin on his very own language. So it's clear to see that this is definitely not the actual Shibuya from The World Ends With You, but my gut feeling is it does actually have something to do with The World Ends With You. I mean, we have to think about it. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora, well, sort of ended up dying. The World Ends With You revolves around this thing known as the Reaper's Game, which is a game that a player enters once that person has died in real life. In order to enter the game, like I mentioned, you have to die, but on top of that, you also have to sacrifice the most important thing to you. The question right here is, if Sora has died at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and has then found himself within this strange alternate version of Shibuya inside of the Reaper's Game, what exactly has Sora sacrificed in order to enter the Reaper's Game, if, of course, this is the Reaper's Game that Sora is in? I would say that it's most likely something to do with either forgetting the memories of his friends, or more so specifically Kairi, as it's been made very, very clear and apparent throughout the Kingdom Hearts series that Kairi seems to be the most important thing to that of Sora, or it's just the simple fact that he ended up sacrificing himself to save everyone in return, which kind of ended up happening at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. He's no longer with the people that mean the most to him, those people being his very closest friends. I think that in itself would be enough to obviously have an entry ticket into that of the Reaper's Game. And it just makes too much sense with the fact that Sora ended up dying and now he finds himself in a Shibuya, one that looks very, very similar to obviously The World Ends With You's one, except there are some key differences. Like I was mentioning, some of the billboards have that interesting sort of Kingdom Hearts language going on. We do, however, also see the 104 building, which is a prominent building obviously within The World Ends With You. Also, though, keeping in mind that the 104 building is actually based upon a real-life building located in Shibuya, which is actually known as the 109 building. I'm guessing that Square Enix just changed it to the 104 to either have their own spin on it, or of course for licensing issues. However, I wouldn't just use the 104 building as like evidential proof that Sora is in The World Ends With You's Shibuya, because the 104 building could also exist in Verum Rex's version of Shibuya Tokyo as well, again to of course avoid any sorts of licensing issues that Square might come across if they were to use the normal 109 branding. The other thing too is, if Sora is obviously within the Reaper's Game, then he should have a timer on his hand, correct? The timer represents how much time you have left to complete the mission that the Reapers have given the player on that set day. We do actually get to see a close-up of Sora's hand, however it is Sora's left hand and not his right. The Reaper's timer is actually displayed on the player's right hand. Now for me personally, I think with seeing a close-up shot of Sora's left hand, I think that's a little bit of a hint or like a tease. The fact that they didn't specifically show the right one, and if there wasn't a timer on the right one, that in itself probably would have been enough to say, okay, Sora is clearly not in the Reaper's Game. But I think they have purposely decided not to show that right hand. This could just be me looking too into it, I don't know. But the fact that they showed the left hand, why? Why?
What are you pointing towards, Nomura?
Now this could just be Sora wandering around the world of Verum Rex, seeing as the world of Verum Rex is also based upon Tokyo, Japan, just like the world of The World Ends With You is, it's based on Tokyo, Japan as well. But going back to the fact that it just makes so much sense for Sora to be in the Reaper's game, I honestly believe that Sora as well as Riku, they are in two completely different versions of Tokyo, Japan. Riku being in Verum Rex's version of it, and Sora being in, of course, Neku's version of it. The World Ends With You. Again, I really don't want to use Nomura's whole "this is not Shibuya, but Shibuya" as a straight D confirmation of this being The World Ends With You, as Nomura in the past is very sneaky and quite subtle towards the things that he says. There's also been instances where Nomura has slightly lied as well within interviews. I mean, at one point he did mention that the Final Mix version of BBS wasn't going to be a thing, and then a few months later there was the confirmation that yes, Final Mix BBS is actually happening. I think it's also interesting that from Riku's perspective, we don't actually get to see any of the sort of colourful billboards that are obviously plastered all over Sora's scenes. I mean, I do understand that Sora is in Shibuya around the Scramble Crossing, and that area in Tokyo, Japan is very commercial, whereas where Riku is, it's kind of north of where Shibuya is, and it's more so within a business district, clearly because he is right next door to, obviously, the Metropolitan Government Building. So there doesn't necessarily have to be like billboards and stuff like that all around where Riku is, but still it's interesting that there is no focus on any sort of advertisements in Riku's shot, with the real interesting wacky looking language that we can see on the billboards in Sora's perspectives. Because if we actually look at the billboard branding at the very beginning of the Verum Rex ad, we can clearly see that rather than using that wacky language, the branding is actually all in Japanese. And I think that could be enough to actually differentiate the fact that both Sora and Riku are in two completely different versions of Tokyo, Japan. The only billboard that we do actually get to see in the area that Riku is in is a billboard of the crown that obviously does represent Sora, and three interesting weird lines. Now, in terms of when this is all taking place, Nomura has confirmed that this takes place right after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3. So obviously when Sora fades away on the Palpu Fruit Tree in Destiny Islands, this is the world that he ends up in straight afterwards. Now, I would say that Riku ends up in the world that he ends up in, or the same world that Sora is in, a little while afterwards, as I believe Riku's mission is going out and finding Sora. Whether he used the power of waking to do so, or has been traveling for quite some time and eventually came across this world, who knows at this point. The last thing that I definitely do want to add, and this is actually one thing that I did bring up in my reaction video to the Secret movie, was the fact that I do believe that, specifically when looking towards the world of Verum Rex, I do wholeheartedly believe that that will somehow connect to Game Central Station. If you guys haven't been following Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, Wreck-It Ralph was recently added into that game. That was the new mysterious world that had been in development for Union Cross for quite some time. It's finally in the game now. Because of the fact that Game Central Station connects different video games, I do believe that when Riku does exit the Verum Rex world, he'll most likely find himself in, of course, Game Central Station. Just considering that Verum Rex is actually a video game world. It could even be a reverse thing, where at first Riku actually does go to Game Central Station, which is one of the worlds he ends up visiting, maybe in the next Kingdom Hearts game, and from there finds himself in, of course, Verum Rex. This has me thinking, though, if what is going on in the Secret movie is not further elaborated on within DLC, then is the next Kingdom Hearts game going to have a focus on not only Sora, but Riku at the same time, similar to the way that Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance worked, where you were constantly going between both characters. The other thing to also keep in mind is, specifically when we look towards Riku's shots, his sort of scenery is very sort of dark blue, silver, and black, those sort of colorations, whereas when we look at Sora, it's quite bright lit and very sort of orangey. The very first scene of the secret movie actually shows us a puddle where we can see both of these colors. I think that could actually be a representation of the fact that both Sora and Riku are in two different worlds. Again, because Sora is within the Shibuya district, which is very commercial, yeah, there are a lot of neon lit signs. That could be the reason as to why Sora's scenes are a little bit more colorful, and that because Riku is in more of a business district, that's why it's not so many colorful lights, but more of like a bluey sort of dark tinge going on. But Nomura always loves this kind of junk, man. Representations and all that kind of stuff, cryptics shit. I mean, Nomura loves this. Now the last thing I want to add is the robed figure who appears in the very final scene of the movie. Nomura did actually confirm that this person is in fact the Master of Masters, and it looks like he's up to something no good. It kind of looks like he wants to almost, I don't know, maybe terraform the actual moon into another Kingdom Hearts. It seems to be that the Foretellers along with the Master of Masters are probably going to be the next villains for the next saga of Kingdom Hearts, and I think this time, rather than the villains having a strong focus on that of darkness, it makes me think these guys might be going down a road of anti-purifiers. It's always been made apparent that worlds need a perfect balance of both light and darkness. But if worlds have too much light, the world in itself could become unstable. This could be the new focus for that of the Foretellers and specifically the Master of Masters. Obviously, we do know that the Master of Masters has this grand scheme that has been going on since, of course, the beginning of it all, back in the Kingdom Hearts Key Saga. And to this day, even with Kingdom Hearts 3 now concluded, we still don't know what exactly the goal and ambitions of the Master of Masters is. Hell, we still don't even know what's in the damn black box! So some very interesting stuff is going on there. The Master of Masters is quite clearly in the world of either where Riku is or where Sora is, as we do see the Metropolitan Government building off in the distance there. And also, not to mention, the cover art of Kingdom Hearts 3 is actually the world where Sora and Riku end up. World, or of course worlds. Nomura did also confirm that the prongs on the clock tower there are not actually just random parts of architecture, but more so those prongs are hooded figures, and no doubt those hooded figures are of course the Foretellers. So yeah, interesting that the front cover of Kingdom Hearts 3 has depicted the secret movie and we've been blind this entire time, because obviously we do not visit the world that's on the cover art at all in the game whatsoever, but it's very obvious that that world is of course the world where Sora and Riku are, or again, worlds. Now guys, that is just my 2 cents on the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret movie. In the comment section down below guys, please do let me know your thoughts and opinions towards it all. Nomura is cooking up the spiciest chicken as of right now, and I really need to get a bite of that, but there's probably gonna be that waiting game before we exactly find out where all of this is going. Now guys, I've been Cynical, hopefully dudes are having a fantastic day, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Hit them on the page, you'll be coming through stunning. Go dip my mouth when you suckers be bluffing. Milk crank, gaming up your bitch though. Catch me in the back playing Super Nintendo.